So thank you everyone to be here today. I had the opportunity with Nanomegas and Technos, and in particular Avinash, to visit India a few times, and I'm sorry not to be in presence with you today. I would like to be there, but that's the way it is, and I'll try to do my best. So I am in Grenoble, which is also quite a nice area that you can see here on this picture. So in Edgar's presentation, you saw the basic of A*STAR, not just the basic, quite already a few advanced things, some possibilities. You saw already some example that probably I will show again. But so my goal here is to show you a few results that we had with this technique. First, maybe I want to come back to what Stavros said quite briefly in his introduction. So what we are interested in is the diffraction, and diffraction collected in different ways than usual, diffraction collected with precession. So that means we have very clean and nice diffraction pattern. So in Grenoble, with Edgar, and Edgar is working a lot on that, we developed the template matching technique to be able to provide maps of orientation, but because with precession we have high quality diffraction pattern, other information can be found. So precession makes the intensity almost kinematic, so that you can start to compute the intensity to find the structure of materials. And I know in Hyderabad, there is a team that use this technique and use the data provided by structure recognition to input them into the template calculation to find orientation map. And the third application of nice quality diffraction pattern is to be able to compute the shift of the diffraction peak with elastic strain in the material to provide this kind of map. But so today I just give you example on orientation map. And what I want to point out is, so in the lab in Grenoble, we study mainly metallurgy. So a lot of examples I will show you are not coming from our lab. Else I will show you just steel, and maybe magnesium, but mainly steel. A lot of these applications were collected when we do training abroad, and so often we just have a half a day to collect data to show people. So it's really the data I will show you were collected quite easily. So it's not something that we do only once a year. It's something that ASTAR can provide on a daily base routine. And so the first example maybe that I want to insist a little bit on. So this is the map, the orientation map that you see here on this screen. So it was in a training in Seoul National University. The specimen was a copper deposited on a silicon nitride film, and the deposition didn't go well. So that's why we have a gradient in grain size. But for us, it was really nice to see such a sample, because it shows you that, okay, we can index easily grains that are about 50 nanometer in size. But if you go to the left part of the map, you see the grain are maybe 2-3 nanometer, and we can identify their orientation as well. So Edgar showed you this slide already, but I think he didn't insist on the result. So here it's typically duplex stainless steel. And this is a type of material we study a lot. And in particular here, we were interested in what are the precipitates at the grain boundary. So here you have the phase map, so the true ferrite and austenite phase with identification of the precipitate. So of course, here it's slightly difficult because the precipitates are embedded in the matrix. And so for this, we often like to work on replica. And so, yeah, I have a second example with this type of steel because Edgar showed the first. So this is a perlitic steel. The perlite was heavily deformed using torsion and compression tests. So it was compressed in the direction perpendicular to the screen. And as Edgar insisted, you see the bright field of the specimen is just a mess. There is so many deformations that we can't really see the details. This second image is a reliability map. So you see well the grain and the grain boundary, you can indeed see that depending if they are edge-on or quite inclined, due to the thickness of the reliability lines. So if I ask you to tell me where is the cementite in this deformed perlite, it's quite difficult, but because we process the data, so here I have superimposed reliability with the phase map, and you can really locate well where is the cementite, and then you can find out when you look at your orientation map. So you see with the z-axis that the ferrite has almost it has a very strong 110 texture, and you see the individual orientation of the cementite. So I go back to my grain boundary and replica. So maybe also to talk a little bit about microscope. This experiment was done almost 10 years ago. At the time in the lab, we had no FEG microscope. So we had a lab 6, which means our beam size was about 10, 20 nanometers. So here you see the particles are quite big. You see the scale bar. So this is the area we studied, and now there is no matrix. So identification for orientation and phase orientation is much more easy. And I show you next slide, which is now taken recently with a FEG microscope. So this is a similar steel. It's a ferritic stainless steel in which we study the embrittlement, but by different nature of precipitate. So this is a replica. This is all the precipitation of CR2C at the grain boundary. And so now this is done with a FEG. Because of the size of the particle, we didn't use the highest resolution to collect them because the precipitate are maybe 50 nanometer. So for this map, we collected a diffraction pattern maybe every 5 to 10 nanometer. And so this full area took, if I remember, 40 minutes to collect. So depending on the TM you have, you can achieve quite very nice resolution. One of the, so being a metallurgical lab, one of the first application we use ASTAR for was so to study steel, but also steel for nuclear application. So I won't go into the details, but we are a lot interested in weldings and to study the nature of the precipitates that occur after the welding process. So we have microstructures that are quite complex. We have on one side carbon steel, stainless steel, and so during the heat treatment to detention the product, carbon diffuse, and so we have precipitation of carbide in the material, and the nature of this carbide will influence the mechanical property of the weld. So to do that, to study this, we were able again to produce replica. So it's what I want to say is that it's very important to have good people who know how to produce this replica, because it's not that easy. But if you have nice replica, you can easily then determine among all the carbide which one are the M7C3. Here they are the red one, and which one are the CR23C6. So you have a few examples, and we were able to measure the change of precipitation going away from the weld area. And I think these results are quite amazing, because by hand it wouldn't be possible to produce this kind of phase map. Still working on stainless steel. So this is a very recent study, this one from our lab. Some of our colleagues are studying the nature of oxidation layer on some stainless steel. And so they conduct heat treatment under different atmosphere. So the O2 content is controlled, the water content is controlled, everything is controlled. And they study the nature of the oxidation layer. So here you have the top view. So and by comparison, you will see a second one with other condition of heat treatment. And so we were able to cut fib section of these layers, and here what you see is analysis with A-star of the phase at the surface of the steel. So we see that we have two grains here of I think it's austenite here, and then you see that there is a first layer of chromine. So this layer is only chromium and oxygen, but then there is some manganese in the steel, and so the manganese has crossed the layer to produce MnCr2O4 layer of oxide at the surface of the material. So this is the phases, and of course this is all the orientation of the grains of the different structure. So this observation that were made with A-star without knowing the chemistry at all of the material were also compared with EDX data, in which we can also study the composition exactly of the different layer in the material. So this is the layer that we got for this heat treatment. And if we change the temperature, so we go to the higher temperature, the appearance of the layer is totally different. There is many bubbles, sorry, I can't say better, in the layer. And so when we did the cross section, so of course we find that the interface is broken, and again we can really tell, okay, it's broken within the steel, and we can follow what happened in the layer. So this is quite recent example, but that show you again what is achievable with ASTAR. So in this case, you need to be able to make a very nice FIB section, but see the scale bar. You capture the very small grain in the different oxidation product. And I won't talk long about this example, but as you saw, we are interested in wear, and in Edgar's team, they are leader in 3D printing also. So we are also studying now a lot of metals that have been processed through 3D printing. So this one is with a laser, and we try to understand the occurrence of crack in the material when it's processed. So this study is really multi-scale, because when we use a BSD, okay, we can have the grain orientation, but a BSD will not tell us which precipitate that you can maybe slightly see here on this image. So which precipitate are at the interface. So then we produce TM sample, and we will go to the boundary and identify the different nature of the sample. So in this case, we have a carbide, but we have also some intermetallic with some zirconium and nickel content. This is also ongoing work, and we'll try to work also on replica on this material. Maybe just here, as Edgar pointed out, I don't know if you can see well, because we have many colors, but even if it's a scan image, you can see also very well the defect, the dislocation population in the sample. So you can see your precipitate and also see if you have heterogeneous or not precipitation. So that's a few examples about the metallurgy. I wanted also to present very fast some example on other material. And Edgar has shown already this slide in his presentation, but people producing microelectronic device, memory, a lot of application need tools to investigate what they are doing at a really small scale. And this is an example from a French device. And so it's important to know what is the grain size in this type of material, because you know all the electric property will depend on that. And so they did some nice FIB sample, and with a quick analysis, they have information of the grain size in the tungsten pillar. But if you look at the same image in the virtual bright field, you couldn't have this information in a normal TM image. One thing I will emphasize on this type of sample is that they have also a lot of amorphous structure. So here it's another device, and we can create templates that will look like rings that will locate the amorphous phase. So for example, I think Si3 and 4 is an amorphous structure. So this is this layer. This can be recognized with ASTAR. And I will go on a little bit studying amorphous. And Edgar started to show the example, but he was trapped with time. So I will take 1 minute to highlight a little bit more what can be done. And by the way, this example was provided by our colleague, Églantine Manara-Courtois, who worked for quite a long time with Christian Kubel in Karlsruhe. So here she had this sample, and the question was to to measure what is the volume fraction of crystalline phase and amorphous phase. And so the diffraction pattern obviously look different if we look in the crystal and in the amorphous phase. But the classical dark field image don't help us. If we put an aperture on a dot, okay, corresponding to this grain, it will highlight, but we don't capture all the crystal. And if we put a ring along the diffraction radius of the amorphous phase, we also highlight a lot of crystal because this crystal diffract at the same radius as the amorphous. So what can be done? And my screen decide to freeze. Hello? Okay, it's coming back. Sorry. So you see that the pattern contains signature of presence of crystal on the amorphous ring. So because all the diffraction patterns are collected, we can then look at them almost one by one, and then we can track what is the difference between two patterns. So here, the difference will be that if we do an intensity profile along the line, if there is no spots corresponding to crystal, the intensity profile will be flat. And if there is a crystal underneath, the intensity profile will show peaks. And this because there is a difference, this can be captured. And if we work on this difference, we can highlight them and then provide such maps in which all what is amorphous here is highlighted in blue, and all what is crystalline is highlighted in red. So with this example, what I want to emphasize is that we have all the diffraction pattern from the area you decided, or one decided to scan. And in ASTAR, we have input already many tools that allow you to see to collect differences with patterns. But if there is something that we haven't seen, please tell us, because maybe we can help you to see more details in your diffraction patterns. So as I said, a lot of application in microelectronics, and also I will finish with one or two more slides with examples to show you that in a way, if you have something that diffracts, if you know the structure of the material, and of course, if the size of your sample is, if it is useful to study it at the nanoscale, probably ASTAR can help you. So here we worked with a colleague in geology, and they studied the formation of Earth. So they put, they study the material in the mantle, and what you see here, so it's phosphosterite, sorry, phosphosterite, it's deformed. And so from the image of the sample, there is no way we could say, okay, what are the grain in the structure. So we process to collection of the diffraction pattern and to the analysis. And so we could, so it's exactly this area. Then we could measure the grain size. We could see that in this material, some area have still big deformed grain, whereas some area look recrystalline, that some grain boundary are pinned. So it's still a matter of study to understand why this boundary have this shape. But so from the classical bright field in the TEM to this information. It was not possible from this classical bright field to have all this information. Another example, so as I said, if it diffracts, we can try to do something. This is a sample in biology. We have some colleagues in our universities that are interested in following bones disease, osteoporosis, such disease. And so they collect a bone sample and they want to study what is the structure of the hydroxyapatite. So what you have here is a diffraction pattern of the bones crystal, and what you have on the top is a template matching procedure. So because this bone structure is known, we could make the model, and then we can indeed analyze how the small hydroxyapatite crystals are arranged within a bone. And so this is after some heat treatments, there is a drastic change in the hydroxyapatite arrangement. So Edgar presented this result already. So it's some colleague work in the world of the nanocrystal. So here it's gold. So what is interesting in this topic, in this subject, is to see that the gold particles, they have a 5-fold symmetry. So all these quadrants are related with a twin orientation relationship. And so I will use this example to show you first maybe what we can do with the data we provide. So here I said it was a twin, but yes, I can confirm it's a twin because if I cross a line from one grain to the other, we can measure 60 degrees. And if I cross, so I think it's probably this boundary, if I cross this boundary, and if I show you a pole figure, it's a 111 pole figure, you can see that we have a common 111 plane for the green grain and for the blue grain with this orientation of the interface. So we can do not all crystallographical study, but you can do this type of study. And so Edgar has shown you what we could do with a correlation coefficient map. So to also try to study the shape of this particle, to have a kind of idea of the 3D shape. And I think I will finish with this example also. So this is copper, that it's a multi-twin copper. So Edgar has shown you already this example using the correlation coefficient map. If we look at the orientation of this crystal in the Z direction, everything is oriented in 110. But then if I change the representation of the orientation, if I go, for example, along the x-axis, you see very well the formation of the twin in the material. And so in the software to view ASTAR result, you will have the possibility to highlight the boundary, so you can choose the disorientation of the boundary, and you can also identify the twin in your grain and even the twin volume fraction. So this was a sample that we studied in China, so during a training. And so with this, I want to conclude. So I've shown you a few examples, but there are many. You have seen there is almost 90 papers of results obtained with ASTAR every year in the world. So what I didn't insist on is in the procedure, we measure orientation, and we can achieve quite good angular resolution, about 0.1 degree. And depending on the TEM, so if you have a effect TEM, we can see quite small grain. We have measured a spatial resolution of 0.7 nanometer. So you can study 1 or 2 nanometer grain. But if you have, of course, a beam that is more coarse, then your spatial resolution is different. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention. It's weird not to see the audience, so I hope you could hear me, and I hope it was okay. Thank you.